I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act not once but twice. 25 years ago, first of all, when I was 21, so you do the math on my age, and then again a few years later. Then about 10 years ago, I got close to being sectioned again. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the lessons I took away from being sectioned locked up under the Mental Health Act and what I carried across into my business and to my day-to-day life today to not only keep me sane, but in a really good, balanced, well-being, fulfilled life today. And the reason behind them sharing this is hopefully you can avoid some of these bad experiences what I've had in the past, because the cold hard truth is I don't know the statistics exactly. If somebody does, put it in the comments below, but I think it is around 70% of entrepreneurial people suffer some sort of form of mental health problem, and them statistics tend to be going up at the moment. It's because so much is overwhelming. Our brains are overworked with like all these devices. Our brains are not getting a chance to rest. We've got a lot more pressure. People have to work longer hours. We're under social pressure because social media, you feel you got to keep up with the Joneses a hell of a lot more. People are getting themselves in bigger debts. There's a lot more consumer debt in the world today, so again it puts you under bigger pressure. So mental health statistics are genuinely going up. And initially when I first see this stat, I thought, is it because we're in a world today where people can admit it a lot more easier? Like back in the day, it was like suck it up, and it was kind of brushed under the carpet. Even 25 years ago, it was a lot more taboo of a subject than it is today. But then when you look at the stats, like self-harming and suicide has gone up, which is the top echelon of mental health problems. So if them two have gone up, the ones underneath them, I don't think them stats have just gone up because people are admitting them. I think a little bit impact of that, but I do feel it's going up. And again, diet, screen time and stuff like that is massive. But anyway, listen, I'm going to give you some practical steps what you can use in your day-to-day life to help you keep the overwhelm down, help you step out your comfort zone and move towards your goals in your property business or any business that you are looking to achieve. So I'm Harvey, the remote property investor. I've built out a close to probably approaching about £4 million portfolio. I've got a bit across my property businesses. We do 6 figures plus per month, and that is rapidly growing. I've got multiple businesses within the property space. I built a lettings business, what I've exited. I've been in business, and a big contributor towards my mental health. Everybody kept on asking me, what got you sectioned, basically? What was it? What happened to it? And there was loads of things. It's like getting a cauldron pot and just chucking all these bits in. There wasn't one big trigger, but there was one main sort of underlining thing. And this one main underlining thing was caused by all of the other things in that cauldron pot, if that makes sense. Imagine you've got this cauldron pot and underneath it you've got the fire. This fire underneath was the main thing, and that main thing underneath it was sleep. But the thing that's contributing to me not having enough sleep was my past. Look, I grew up mixed race, so I was born in London. My dad come over, I can't remember when he come over, but he come over in the Windrush from the Caribbean, from Dominica. Met my mum, who's white English, but my mum didn't get on. My dad moved. I've never met my dad, never seen a photo of him. My mum moved away. Caribbean men of that era tend to be a little bit violent towards women. It was in their culture. I'm not justifying it, but also I'm not justifying my mum taking me away and not allowing me to meet my dad, but I can understand both sides of the story. So I don't agree with it. That dad should have never been doing that. But my mum moved away. My nan moved out of East London, first of all, to a little village called Aveley, not far, Stratford we was born. And then we moved to Aveley when I was around 6 years old. So I don't remember anything of my dad whatsoever. I've got no memories or vision of him. But that was confusing. We moved to a little village in the 80s that was literally one other black family. It's not as multicultural as it is today. Back in the 80s, it wasn't. So it was difficult. I was more white feeling because I grew up with a white family. I was more cultured to be white, but I looked more black, especially when I was younger. You could tell more. I had afro hair before I was losing my hair. So that was one thing that contributed to it. We had family issues, like all families had, that contributed. And there's a big split between my mum and my sister, which contributed to it. There's a split, like there was a friction between my sister and my brother-in-law, between me and my brother-in-law, sorry, like who's my sister's married to. So there's family issues that went to it. I was trying to chase some dreams in business. I was taking on far too much. So my brain was consumed and I was stepping too far out of my comfort zone. So all of these things combined, there was other family issues, like with my mum. She was getting divorced at the time, and it just stirred up bits. And there was loads of of bits that went to it. It's more than I explained here, but there were some of the headline ones. But the oh yeah, another big one is I was smoking weed very, very heavily at the time. I don't smoke anymore, but I was smoking skunk weed as well, particularly very heavily at the time. And at the time, it robbed me of my ambition. When I was sort of like from the age of 11 through to the age of 16, I was earning money really well. I was selling BMX parts. It was my first business venture. I went out over the boot market because we used to buy everything secondhand because we was a poor family. We used to go to the boot market and I found a guy that had these BMX parts. And the film BMX Bandits, if any of you are old enough to remember that, the film BMX Bandit, a guy, everybody had these nice BMXs, and I'll try and put it on the screen if I can. I had this really horrible little girl's bike, but my mum couldn't afford anything. But I remember going to the boot market, I used to always save my new 5p's. So back, I've done this again, I should put it on the screen now as well. I saved £2 coins as well and bought actually this house out of that. But I say, from young, I had this thing in my head, like, if I save a 5p, it's enough to build up to £1 pretty quickly. And £1 bought you quite a lot back in the 80s, unlike today. But it was quite a lot to build up to £1 really quickly, but not too much for me to miss if I saved it. And I've done this with £2 when I was older. I saved the £2 was enough to save and build up really quickly, and pounds was, but not too much to miss and not want to spend, if that makes sense. So I remember saving my 5p's up, and over the boot market, this guy had all these BMX parts. He must have done a clearance. He was an old boy. He didn't know what it was. It was like 20p, 50p, 80p. I was thinking, that's worth that much. That 20p thing's worth £4, easy, £5. That £2 thing's worth £20. So each week I'd go back with my 5p's, buy as much of this stuff, sell it, get my profits and put it back in. By the time I was 16, I was doing like, well, the time I was sort of like 14, 15, we got decks and it was jungle music at the time, and I was organising parties and charging people to come in there, hiring little local like scout halls and things like that to do that. So I was always entrepreneurial, and then I split up with girls, started smoking weed to everything. It robbed me of my ambition. And at the same point, before I got sectioned, I decided, look, I went from having lots of money, not lots, but decent money for my age, and going to having nothing, and not even anybody wanting to credit me £10 worth of weed. So I went from a really good position to dropping out from nowhere. And because it went to my head massively, I thought I had the minus touch. I thought everything I could do was perfect, and I got like, everything's emotional, and this is what I've learned over the years with my mental health. We're in emotional states, and when things are going well, you feel untouchable, but that can be your biggest threat to future success because you get complacent. And I was complacent, and then I split up with a girl. I started smoking weed heavily, and I went from having a decent income at the age of sort of like 16ish to having nothing. And then one day I decided, I was in that slump. I split up with a girl when I was about 18. Now I was in that slump for a couple of years, about 3 years of smoking weed. And I was like, one day I've had enough. I'm gonna get back to business. I went out, I took a lot of business back on, and I went in too deep, too fast. Again, when I look at my property Delta matrix, see if we can get that up on the screen. I went in too fast, too quick. And ultimately, as a consequence of that, I was massively overwhelmed, so I wasn't sleeping properly, and I give up weed really quickly, and the weed was like a sleeper for me. So people saying, was it the weed that made you go nuts because it was skunk weed? Was it like all these things? I said, no, it's a combination of all of those together, and then taking on something too big and giving up weed at the same time. I just didn't sleep for about 3 weeks, and my head went pop. I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act and locked up for, I think it was Section 2, first of all, they called it, where you locked up for Section 24 maybe, sounds familiar for property, but whatever it was, I locked up for 24 hours, they session, then 2 days, then 2 weeks. Come out of the system really depressed. I couldn't leave my house for like, for about 18 months, I think it lasted. Like, I couldn't go out, couldn't speak to friends on the phone. I was just really, really, really in a bad depression and a low, because I was manically high when I got sectioned, and then they fed me really, really strong, just tranquilizers basically, would put me in a massive deep depression. I stayed in my mum's box room, I grew a massive beard and played the guitar, wrote loads of songs. And I remember the day that I got snapped out of it, was my nephew turned up one day. He was only young, he must have been 6, 7, and he see this big beard on me, he just looked at me and laughed, went, "Bah." I remember it just snapped me out one day. I got to get back to doing stuff. Then I got back to doing some stuff. I dragged myself out of it. I moved out of different areas because I was super embarrassed. I smashed my house up, done loads of embarrassing things. I was like just in a trip out world when it happened. So I was super embarrassed. So I moved out a little bit further out, started trying to do a bit of business. Always been entrepreneurial, started trying to do a bit of business, then things went wrong. Again, I got in a little bit of trouble with the law, being super transparent, and nothing major, but with all relating to weed again. And again, that put me under more pressure again, and I got sectioned for the second time. So I then got myself back on my feet, and I managed to manage my well-being for a while, and I humbled myself a little bit. I started learning about my head. I gave up weed pretty much completely. Dabbled here and there, but I used weed here and there from that point on. Weed didn't use me. I didn't need it, crave it, and need it to go to sleep or anything. So then I craved myself, got myself away from that, and I had a good 10-year period from the age of about 26 to about 36 when it crept in again. And if the first time it happened was like 110 out of 100, it was really severe. The second time it happened at about 70, and the second time I recovered, like, instead of 18 months, took me probably about a year to recover. Then the third time it happened, it was probably about 40, but I got on top of it a lot more quicker, and I recovered in the 6 months. I didn't get sectioned on the third time. I managed to recognize it and direct it. And then from that point onwards, I humbled myself. I started looking at how the brain operates. I dug into the science behind how the brain operates. So I started doing little practices, and I built them in bit by bit. Like meditation at a time. This is one of the things that I'm going to advise you to do, but I'm going to give you practical ways to do this later on. So I started doing meditation. I'm a really hyperactive, busy brain type person, so meditation was something I really didn't want to do, but I thought often you've got to do the things you don't want to do to get the things you want. So I thought, let's give this a try. That many people can't be wrong. And I remember I started with 1 minute, and I put found an app on my phone. This is about 10 years ago, 2014 it happened. Found an app on my phone, and I just put in a meditation app, and I put on a minute. I thought, I didn't know this at the time. I'll show you science behind this because I dug into this. But I thought, let me just start with a minute and build it up. I remember putting the minute on, putting it down, sat there, trying to clear my brain. My brain's racing. And I thought, did I actually press start on the app? Because it felt like I was sitting there for 10 minutes. I looked at the app, and it's only 45 seconds gone, or 44 seconds. Can't remember exact amount, but it was in the 40s. I was like, oh, wow, that felt like 10 minutes. Put it down. Sat there again, I thought, did I put my alarm on? Like, was my notifications on? Like, it feels like I've been sat here for longer than 15 seconds. It feels like another, 3 minutes. Looked down, it was like 57 seconds. I was like, wow, I've got a lot of work to do. So I just done 1 minute for, I think it was for about 5 weeks. And then after 5 weeks, I went to 2 minutes. After that 5 weeks, it compounded. So then it took me probably about 3 weeks to get to 3 minutes. And I jumped to 5 minutes after a couple of weeks. And then after a week after that, I got to 10 minutes. Then I got to 20 minutes. So I've done 20 minutes per day for a long time before I had kids, by the way. And it really, really did help. A combination of that, make sure I understood what I ate, the consumables I put in. Make sure I stuck to my exercise regime. I was always an exerciser from young, but make sure I stuck to my exercise regime and a good diet and a good mindful practices. Them 3 things had a tremendous impact on what I'd done, but also making sure I built up into projects bit by bit. Like the first property deal I'd done was a piece of land, and it overwhelmed me. This is why I talk about the property delta matrix a lot, and say, look, start at the bottom and build your skill up, because courage, confidence, conviction is one of the massive things for this. And if you're at that courage, confidence, conviction sort of stage, then it overwhelms you. And it's no good if your mental health is really down. You have got to step out of your comfort zone. You cannot move forward without stepping out of your comfort zone. But if your comfort zone's a 2, you just want to step out of it to a 3 and get these incremental steps up. And since I learned the science behind what I've done with that minute thing, mate, you can have your North Star, your big goal, but have incremental steps towards that. You get these odd people go, yeah, go large or go home. They're exceptions, not the rules. You've got to do this incrementally, bit by bit. And dependent on you and your personality, some people can just dive in like that, some people can't. This is why I take people through these exercises to figure out what you are like individually, so we can help you, what suits you to your plan, not what suits this person that is really risk averse, or this person that really just don't care and dives in and high energy. We've got to figure out what works within you. So this is tip number 1. Find out where you are in your base and measure you against you, not other people. If you have got kids and not as much time, and a 9 to 5 that you're working, or not even 9 to 5, you may be working 10, 12 hours a day. You can't measure yourself against a young, hungry entrepreneur who lives in his mum's spare room, and doing this full time because his dad's funding him. You've got to look at all the variables around this and measure a path out for you individually. So this is one of the big lessons I took away, is measuring that individual path. Again, James Clear wrote a great book called Atomic Habits, and he said there's a 2-minute rule. When you want to achieve things, I've done this by mistake and then found the science out. So when I wanted to be a meditator, I built it up 1 minute, first of all, 2 minutes. He says the intensity of an exercise, the regularity, outweighs the intensity of what you're trying to do. So you doing this regular, everything got to go into your subconscious brain. Think when you first learned to drive a car and you was like clutch, indicator, it was it was hard and your brain was overwhelmed, you were scared, your heart would have been thumping. After you drive a car for a period of time, it goes into your neural pathways. They're called synaptic nerve endings. And in science, they say what wires together, fires together. Once that's pathways built in your brain, that's it, it's in there. So again, that's why what consistency builds it into the brain, repetition. They say it's something from 66 to 100 days to build it in their neuro pathways into your brain. And if you make the task, like I'm going to go to the gym for an hour per day, every day, too high, it's too difficult. So this is a big takeaway. Have a default mode. Even for the gym to this day, I've been doing gym every day for over a decade now. And I do have the times I miss out here and there, but I've got a 6-minute rule in the gym. I know I can't convince myself not to go to the gym for 6 minutes. And I do the cross trainer because I have troubles with my shoulder and sometimes my knee. So then in my head, like your head self-sabotage is putting you in your comfort zone. But instant gratification comfort zone never gives you long-term delayed gratification. Delayed gratification where that true fulfillment comes from. So you've got to figure out to do this 1 minute or 2 minute rule. So like what I've done with the meditation, building it up bit by bit, start off with a minute. And on the days I still do this with meditation today. The days I don't feel like doing it, I do a 5-minute breath exercise. And again, I'm going to give you in the links below some practical little steps you can, practical little exercise you can do on YouTube. So the 5-minute breath exercises on the day I haven't got time to do 20 minutes, which is most days by the way, and I haven't got time to do a deep breath exercise and a longer one. I just do a 5 to keep that habit in. So in my subconscious mind, I am a mindful practitioner. You know, so you just want to mindful practice in place and you want that default. Similar again, exercise is absolutely massive. Again, I've got that 6 minute, the default. Most days I go to the gym for 30 minutes to an hour, but days I don't feel like it, I can't persuade myself. And I make it convenient. James Clear in his book says, make it convenient. If you want to exercise, put the bad habit things away from you. So if your phone distracts you, take it out of your bedroom, put it somewhere else, put your trainers in somewhere where that and your sports gear next to your bed so you can get straight up and go and do at least 2 minutes of exercise. He said just go and walk for 2 minutes. Do it every day for 66 to 100 days. In your subconscious brain, you're burning that in like you did when you burnt them patterns in of driving the car or learning to ride a bike again. And like riding a bike, if you haven't ridden a bike for years, you don't forget. You might be rusty, but you don't forget. So you just once you burnt them neural pathways in, that's the foundation kind of there. Again, next with consuming our food. Eat just real good food. Sugary foods that spike your insulin level really just give you, you know, it just don't help with your mental health with this, you know. So exercise, food are two of the biggest impacts. If you're feeling overwhelmed at the moment, get in HIIT work training. Again, you can do this in 5 to 10 minutes and strip the sugar away from slowly build back on your sugars. Taking the sugars out from what you're doing will be great. And again, I learned this as well. When I give up smoking weed, what I've done is I had skunk weed, which was super strong. I started smoking normal weed and hashes. And then I started smoking roll-ups. I can't stand smoking and roll-ups, but it's just that habit. And then once the craving slowly crept down, I could just throwing away the roll-ups was easy because it was horrible, it stunk, and I didn't like doing it. But instead of just trying to do what I'd done the first time that got me section and giving up straight away, I incrementally done it. So find what your incremental pathways are. And even once you've found your pathways and your goals and your North Star of what you want to achieve, make sure that you've got your defaults on the days that you're busy and you're traveling. And these are the key fundamentals behind it. Have some mindful practices, eat good food and exercise. If you do those and have your default modes to do those, that's when you start achieving stuff. And what I've learned and carry across into my business, I do this in everything when I'm building up businesses. I step up bit by bit and I have my defaults, right? Okay, I compartmentalize my diary. Monday, I need to be writing copy. Tuesday, I need to be phoning agencies if I was in the property game looking for people. I put these in my days and I make sure I do a minimum of 15 minutes of those on the days I need to do them. Because I can't excuse I haven't got 15 minutes to push myself towards my goals. So I take the 5 biggest needle moving things that I need to do, and often the things I don't want to do. Tim Ferriss said this, the thing you want to do the least is always the thing you need to do the most if you want to excel forward, both mentally and financially. So there are often things you don't want to do that you procrastinate on. But by giving myself a default, so I'm going to do at least 15 minutes of that, and on the days I don't feel like doing it, I'll do that. And then it just compounds. But also, once you start, I say in the gym, the heaviest weight is the front door. Once you push that weight open, you often, starting is the key. Often you start, say, I'm going to do 15 minutes. Oh, I'm doing it now. And you're not doing half hour, an hour. So then they're the key fundamentals that I'm going to give you to take away, carry across into your business. Make sure you have your incremental steps up. Make sure you have your default modes within them. Don't just try and dive in too deep, too quick, because it's just setting yourself up for failure. And even if you do go a bit more beast mode, make sure you go back to the defaults as well. So set your defaults up. Eat clean, exercise. Exercise and eating clean is the two biggest impacts when my brain, because I have days where I feel overwhelmed, of course I do, but I know how to manage my states now. I know how to bring them back. I'm taking on more than I ever did before. And I do have little periods where I need seasons when my sleep's down a bit, but with the mindful practices, I get nowhere close to being sectioned again, not even close. And I'm taking on triple amount of pressure than I did before. I had sleepless nights like I did before, but I know how to navigate that. And again, keep an eye on your sleep. Get a wearable tracker. What you track, it gets measured. So track your sleep. And for me, if I have too many nights on a row with bad sleep, I'm like, okay, I'm just cutting everything out to make sure that sleep's right and to stay away from these devices. I'll do more videos like this. Put in the comments below if you want more videos like this. I've learned loads of practical things. Now you can step up with this. As I said, the reason my wife's lived my terms, my mission was many people live on their terms with education. And if you don't master yourself and your own brain, that is the biggest thing. It's getting you towards your gut. It's keeping you away from your goals. 90% what we do is psychology, 10% is strategy. So if you don't master this, you just want, how many you should on yourself? I got this from Tony Robbins. You know what you should do, but you don't do what you know. And it's because of this. And this is when I work with people and on consultancy, that's what we do. We make it default mode. So it makes it almost embarrassing not to be able to do it. So these are the big takeaways. Hope you enjoyed this. I'll start doing one of these every now and again just to help people, because I know this is the biggest thing that gives you the impact. Put in the comments what you'd want to know. If you're struggling, reach out to me in the comments and we'll see if we can guide you towards some more bits. If you're still here, please hit that subscribe button. It really does help this channel and helps the page. It really does help get it out there. As I said, my wife's help people live on their terms. So if you can share this out, that'd be amazing. But remember, if you don't evolve your ideas, you'll never live on your own terms. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms, and have an amazing day.